the parotid region, the nasal region, the oral region, and the mental region. So those are regions that are found within the face. So after discussing the regions of the head, we are moving into the bones. We are going to give a basic structure, a basic listing of the bones. Then in the next note, we are going to then describe each of the bones in full details. So now, the bones of the head. The head is made up of two sets of bones. We have the bone housing the brain and the bone housing the soft tissue of the head. The bones housing the head is called the cranium, while the bone housing the soft tissues of the head, which is the bone within the face, is called the visceral cranium. In total, the cranium and the visceral cranium form the skull. So what bones make up the cranium? The bones that make up the cranium are: we have the frontal bone, we have the parental bone, we have the occipital bone. So we have one frontal bone, two parental bone, and one occipital bone, making up the what? The cranium. The cranium have the roof and the base. So the base is made up of one frontal bone, two occipital bone, two parental bone, and one occipital bone. Then the base of the cranium is made up of the frontal bone, the occipital bone, and set, which is what? Which is the sphenoid bone, the ichthyoid bone, and the temporal bone. So let me recap. I said the bone of the head, they are divided into two main groups: the bones housing the brain and the bone housing the soft tissues of the head. The bones housing the brain is called the cranium. The bones housing the soft tissues of the head, which is the bone within the face, is called the visceral cranium. Then we went further to say that the cranium can be divided into two sets: the bone making up the roof, that is the roof of the cranium, the bones making up the roof of the cranium, and the bones making up the base of the cranium. So what bones make up the roof of the cranium? The bones that make up the roof of the cranium, also called the viscerum, also called the cavirum, not viscerum. The roof of the head of the cranium is also called the cavirum. So the bones that make up the cavirum, which is the roof of the cranium, they are one frontal bone, two parental bones, and one occipital bone. The bones making up the base of the cranium, they are one frontal bone, one occipital bone, sphenoid bone, ichthyoid bone, and the temporal bone. So we are able to discuss the bones that make up the cranium. So now we're moving into the bones that make up the visceral cranium, which is the bone of the face. Bones of the face. And what are they? The bones of the face, the visceral cranium, are: we have the zygomatic bone, that is the bone that is found at the cheek. The zygomatic bone, there are two. 2 zygomatic bone, 2 lacrimal bone. When they say lacrimal, all you used to remember is the tears. Lacrimal, we have 2 lacrimal bone. This is the smallest bone. Nasal bone, 1 nasal bone. Then we have the inferior nasal conchae. That inferior nasal conchae is 2, and they are found within the nasal cavity. We have the vomer bone, VOMER, vomer bone. This bone is found at the posterior aspect of the nasal septum. The nasal septum is just, it's like cartilage, something like that, at the middle of the nose. I know you're able to know it. So the posterior part of it, posterior aspect of this nasal septum